Hey guys, it's me, Isaac Woolsey, the autistic comedian here, and I thought I'd discuss, something very passionate about pencils. Well, I wouldn't say passionate, but these pencils help me through a lot. They are Ticonderoga Dixon pencils, unsharpened. And don't worry, I if they get worn out, I usually get a new ones, and I have a whole box that I kind of replace, almost like an addict with cigarettes. Although I don't smoke, but these babies, I've had been using pencils since forever because part of my autism is stimming, and stimming really a lot of people think it's weird or I'm like or something like that. It's gotten a little bit more trendy nowadays, especially a few years ago with the fidget spinners. Cringe. Sorry. But yeah. Um you know fi- um what was I gonna say? I'm not editing this, by the way. Well, I will edit, but I'm not gonna do jump cuts or anything. That's just ridiculous. But when did I start stimming? It was a long time ago. I think when I first started school in pre-K when I was like 4 years old. Like, I, me and my class, especially my teachers and stuff, the kids would always do arts and crafts and stuff. And I remember one particular day they were doing arts and crafts, and I decided, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't do arts and crafts because the kids wouldn't give me the paint that I needed to build to make the floor of a house I was making out of cardboard. It wasn't that intricate, guys. But so I decided, you know what? I have a thing of yarn, just a little strand of yarn that I decided to walk back and forth with it trailing behind. And I kept doing that. And that yarn made the time go by. I was imagining I was in some foreign land. I was waving around. I was on top of the world. I was like, man, it stimulates my imagination. It makes me calm down. It helps me focus. Well, later on, stimming will help me focus. And I really had fond memories of that strand of yarn. Then I got home. I decided to try with some pens. The pencils would come later, but I used other means. And the pens were really good. I really depended on the pens. And anyway, as I was using the pens, I just felt a rush of energy, and my parents flipped out. They were like, oh, "You're stimming. You shouldn't do that. That's weird." But it felt so good. And I remember growing up, my parents would tell me to only stim in the house and not near a window. But I don't blame my parents. They didn't understand back then. They do now. But anyway, I first did it with pens, and then I decided instead to use toothbrushes instead. Yeah, very very gross, but I used toothbrushes. And those toothbrushes I would use for hours, just standing in one corner, just using them. But they were really good, but other people need to brush their teeth. And I only could use certain types of toothbrushes, so the toothbrushes weren't so practical. Then I made the transition to pencils. Oh, and there was also a phase where I was using a toy like little, what's it called? The little thing that you pull out to make a car go by, the little the little thing that you pull. I don't know what it is, and I don't want to look it up, but I used to use one of those too, but then my brother stole that and hid it from me. But anyway, I always use pencils. Growing up, I was told not to do it outside or anywhere else. And I thought that my parents thought it'd be a phase that I'd grow out of course, but then I remember sneaking them places and carrying them in my pocket. And when they were in my pocket, I could find a bathroom or something and then use them. It was just something I did. It made me feel really cool and really, well, not really cool. I looked weird, um, but I always used them. Okay, continue on the story. The one time I brought them out in public, I think it was when I was a teenager in the U.S. Civil Air Patrol. And the Civil Air Patrol is the civilian equivalent auxiliary of the Air Force, the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary. It was something I went to as a teenager where we went on missions and stuff like that to look for aircraft and stuff like that. And I made it to Cadet Senior Master Sergeant. I wasn't actually in the military, but it was really cool. That might be a video for another time, but I did, at this one event, I brought it out and started using it, and then a few people, kind of said, "Oh, what are these?" But nobody really hated me or thought it was weird because I did it, like my parents and my brother thought I would, but people just kind of were like, okay, that's your usual quirks. And I remember going through high school, that was the worst when I didn't have pencils, but now I have them, and I use them a lot, especially when I was in college. And college, I kind of got a reputation for them, and people know not to take my pencils, because that's another issue. People taking my pencils, especially people who would grab them and sharpen them, because I can't use them when they're sharpened. They cut my fingers up, and they don't feel well. And then they write with them, or they pick them up and look at it. But I'm like, yeah, don't touch my pencils. That's like taking somebody's cane away or a fake arm. It's a part of me. It's something that I need to calm down and focus. And anyway, if you notice me fidgeting around, I'm sorry. That's just what I do. But I always use these pencils as a way of coping, and also because I just like them. But anyway, going back, I go off on tangents sometimes. But anyway, people would take them and sharpen them or stuff, and I would get really, really mad. Few noticeable examples were one time I was going to whatchamacallit, I was going to the hospital for a illness, and they took my pencils. And I was freaking out because I just couldn't be without my pencils. It's like taking someone's cigarettes away. Going back to the cigarette analogy, I needed them. And I was freaking out the whole time. And I remember I used toothbrushes like back in the day, and they didn't feel the same like they used to. Yeah, they thought I'd use them as a weapon or something like that. They'd always take my pencils, then they never give them back. They throw them away, which always made me mad. But one time I had a roommate who actually took my pencils without asking. He just grabbed them, then he held them up, and he was like, "I'm gonna keep one of these with me, so a part of you will always be with me." And it's like, no, give me my pencils back. Then I had to get new ones because I can't use a new pencil or an old pencil because it just kind of feels weird. If one's slightly worn and one's not, it kind of doesn't fit well. Well, anyway, I got new ones. He's like, and I told him not to do it, and he's tried to give me the old ones back. I'm like, well, no, I already used these ones, and then he gets mad and throws them at me. So yeah, I made a big deal on Facebook about that. That don't touch my pencils, and also going to the store. I've noticed there's less and less pencils that are unsharpened nowadays. They're all pre-sharpened except for Ticonderogas. So I mean, there used to be a whole section of them. Now I see all these sharpened ones or mechanical ones, and I see regular ones. So please, pencil manufacturers, always keep in stock unsharpened pencils. It'll help out the autistic community with their stimming, so they don't hurt themselves on sharpened pencils. That is what I really wanted to say in this whole long video. Just keep my pencils to yourself. If you take my pencils, I will take I will rip out your hair. Just kidding. I'm not violent, but yeah, just don't do that. And also don't touch my shoulder. But that's a video for another time. I'm sorry it wasn't a comedy video, but I haven't been out in a while, so I'm just kind of running on fumes here. I just wanted to tell my story with my pencils and why they really help. So, Ticonderoga, thank you for making these pencils that aren't sharpened still, as long as sharpened ones, because I really need it. Thank you. This is your captain signing out. No, that's not really my outro. My outro is nothing. I'm just the autistic community. I'll just go now.